All right, let's talk about something that's, well, quietly powering pretty much everything in our digital lives. I'm talking about data collection. It's that invisible engine humming in the background, driving everything from your streaming recommendations all the way to major breakthroughs in medical science. And make no mistake, the stakes here are incredibly high. This quote just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. Bad data is like trying to build a skyscraper on a cracked foundation. It doesn't matter how brilliant your blueprint is. If the stuff you're building on is incomplete, inaccurate, or biased, the whole thing is just doomed from the start. Seriously, every single algorithm, every business strategy, every big aha moment, it all starts right here. This is step one. And if you get this first, most crucial step wrong, well, everything that comes after is built on some seriously shaky ground. So let's lay our own foundation here. What are we actually talking about when we say data collection? Okay, the key word to latch onto here is systematic. This isn't just, grabbing random bits of information like some kind of digital treasure hunt. No, it's a planned, methodical process. You start with a really clear question. What do we actually need to find out? And then you build a very specific plan to get exactly the info you need to answer it. So why does all this matter? Well, because good data is basically the engine of progress. It's what lets businesses make smart decisions instead of just guessing. It's how scientists uncover those hidden patterns and trends. And it is the absolute essential fuel for any AI or machine learning model out there. Honestly, without quality data, you're pretty much just flying blind. Okay, so when you decide you need data, you're immediately at a fork in the road. There's a fundamental choice you have to make. Are you going to go out and create brand new information from scratch? Or are you going to use what's already out there? And this leads us down two totally different paths. So here are our two main flavors of data. You've got primary data, which is the stuff you collect yourself. It's fresh, it's original. And then you have secondary data, which is information that someone else already gathered. Really, the choice between them usually boils down to a classic trade-off. Do you need something that's perfectly custom fit for your exact problem, or do you need something you can get your hands on fast and probably for a lot less money? All right, let's dig into that first path, primary data. I love this analogy. Think of it like being a chef who goes straight to the farm to pick their own ingredients. It's totally fresh, it's tailored exactly to the meal you're trying to make, and you know precisely where it came from. No mystery meat here. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, we're talking about things like surveys, one-on-one interviews, or even just observing something in real time. A classic example is a company doing an A/B test, showing one version of their website to one group of people and a different version to another group, just to see which one gets more clicks. That is primary data collection in action. They're creating brand new knowledge to answer a very specific question. Now let's talk about the other path, secondary data. If primary data is picking your own ingredients, secondary data is like raiding a really, really well-stocked pantry. Someone else has already done all the hard work of growing and harvesting. It's just sitting there on the shelf, ready for you to use. And yeah, it's almost always faster and cheaper. And this kind of information is, it's everywhere. It's in a company's own sales logs. It's in those huge public data sets that governments release. It's buried in academic research papers. And, of course, it's all over websites and social media. The data is already out there. The real trick is finding the right stuff and figuring out how to use it effectively. But today's data collection is so much more than just surveys and databases. We've moved way beyond those traditional methods. We now have this incredible toolkit that lets us gather information automatically and, frankly, at a scale that's hard to even wrap your head around. So let's check out some of the real powerhouses of modern data collection. First up, we've got web scraping. So what is that? It's basically using an automated tool, a bot, to go to a website and just pull down huge amounts of specific information. We're talking about things like product names, prices, customer reviews, and it pulls all that data into a nice, neat, structured file for you. You see this all the time. A travel site, for instance, might scrape a bunch of airline websites to find you the best deal on a flight. Or maybe a market researcher scrapes social media to see how people are feeling about a new product. It's a really powerful way to tap into that giant public library we call the internet. Okay, so if web scraping is like reading every page of a book to find what you want, then using an API is like walking up to the librarian and just asking for the specific fact you need. An API, that's an application programming interface, is a super clean, official, and much more reliable way for different pieces of software to just talk to each other and share data directly. And what's so wild is that you are interacting with APIs literally all day, every day. and you probably don't even realize it. When your weather app gives you the forecast, that's an API. When your rideshare app shows you a map, that's an API too. It's pulling that data from another service in real time. It really is the invisible plumbing that makes the modern internet work. And get this, data collection isn't just happening on our screens anymore. It's happening all around us in the physical world. This is where the Internet of Things, or IoT, comes in. We're talking about this massive network of physical devices, everything from your smartwatch to giant factory machines, that are all embedded with sensors, constantly collecting and sharing data about the world around them. This is really where the digital and the physical worlds start to blur together. I mean, think about it. Your fitness tracker monitoring your heart rate, that's IoT. A tiny sensor in a jet engine that can predict when it's going to need maintenance before it breaks, that's IoT. A GPS tracker on a truck that helps a company manage its entire delivery fleet, all of these are perfect examples of how this constant stream of data is totally transforming entire industries. But look, as powerful as all these tools are, let's be real. Collecting data is rarely a simple, smooth ride. There are a ton of common hurdles that can trip up even the most carefully planned projects. Oh yeah, you run into all kinds of headaches. You'll find you have big chunks of data just missing. Or a classic one, the data you get is in a dozen different inconsistent formats. Sometimes the data is just flat out wrong, thanks to a faulty sensor or a simple human typo. And then, looming over all of this are the big ones, the sheer cost of doing it right, and of course, the massive, super important issues around privacy and ethics. So, how on earth do you navigate all that? Well, it really all comes down to sticking to a few golden rules. These are the core principles that separate high-quality, responsible data collection from the messy, unreliable kind. And this is so important. Not all data is created equal, not even close. For data to actually be valuable, it has to check a few boxes. It's got to be accurate. It has to reflect reality. It needs to be complete with no big holes in it. The format has to be consistent so you can actually work with it. It needs to be timely. Yesterday's news isn't very helpful. And maybe most of all, it has to come from a source you can actually trust. That's what separates useful information from just digital noise. And maybe the most important rule of all has to do with the human element. In an era where we're collecting just unbelievable amounts of data, how we collect it says everything about our values. Being upfront about what you're doing, getting consent, protecting people's privacy, that's not just about following the law. It is the absolute bedrock of trust between any person and any service they use. At the end of the day, data collection gives us this incredible, almost superpower-like ability to understand and shape our world. And the tools we use are getting more powerful every single day. So the real question we have to ask ourselves isn't what can we collect? The question is, what should we collect? And how we as a society decide to answer that question, well, that's going to define our future. Thanks for tuning in.